Hey there, Weeb Army. I am the Goblin King, and it's Thursday, which means that I can completely, totally, and utterly empathize with the subject that I'm about to cover in this video. That means it's also time for another fun anime review. Today's anime I picked because it sounded absolutely hilarious, and because the current season's still not over, so I can't do the 2 or 3 anime that I really want to do right now. I'm still looking forward to My Dress-Up Darling, for instance. I finished up the most recent chapter of that manga a couple weeks ago, and I've been champing at the bit ever since. So look forward to that as soon as the final episode for the season drops. The anime I decided to cover this week, though, was another one from last summer called Uramichi Oniisan. The reason I decided on this one, ultimately, was because the description was giving me a lot of Death to Smoochy vibes, and that's one of my favorite Robin Williams movies. If you've seen Death to Smoochy, you've probably already got a pretty good idea of what the basic premise is behind this anime, and I totally wasn't wrong, either about the vibes it was giving off, or about it being fucking amusing as hell. Though I will say this, it was definitely more wholesome and less dark than Death to Smoochy. The anime follows a 31-year-old professional gymnast named Uramichi Oniisan, who hosts a children's television show called Together with Maman, which itself is apparently a parody of a real Japanese children's show. Together with an ensemble cast of quirky characters, Uramichi mostly keeps up a positive smile and an upbeat personality while in front of the cameras and the guest children. It becomes clear pretty quickly, though, that Uramichi and the rest of the cast are mentally unstable, and Uramichi often can't help but reveal his jaded and downtrodden personality and talking to the children about the hardships of being an adult. Now, I think it becomes clear why I said at the opening of this thing that I could totally, completely, and utterly empathize with the subject of this video, yeah? Especially since this is only the second day of my work week and I already pray for the blissful, sweet release of death. At least then, I wouldn't have to deal with any more of this abject stupidity that is forced upon me day in and day out. Uramichi Oniisan, pretty much just called Uramichi Oniisan throughout the show's run, by everyone, is, as stated, a well-built professional gymnast with a friendly face. The amicable smile and personality he puts on for the show, however, is just a mask hiding a world-weary, just this side of deranged mind. Uramichi hates his job, hates his life, and his only form of escapism is smoking, drinking, and working out. He hates the obligation he bears as an adult, bemoans, even if briefly, the fact that he's 31 and single, and can't stand being around his friends and coworkers, often making the conscious choice to drink by himself in his apartment or work out at the gym. This, of course, is where a lot of the comedy in the show stems from. He would truly be an irredeemable character if it weren't for one simple fact. He actually loves and enjoys being around the kids and will legit do anything and everything he can to make them laugh and smile, including dressing up in completely shameful costumes. That's also part of what makes this show that much more wholesome than Death to Smoochy. Uramichi may be completely jaded and an asshole, but he's not a totally corrupt slimebag the way Robin Williams' character was on that movie. Tokibichi Usahara and Mitsuo Kumatani play Usao and Kumao, a bunny character and a bear character respectively, on the children's show. They also happen to be Uramichi's juniors and roommates when they were in college. Usahara is basically the slacker character of the show. He is consistently broke due to his habit of playing mahjong and pachinko, and is constantly bemoaning his status as a single man, particularly when he gets drunk. He also has a very bad habit of getting on Uramichi's bad side, usually by getting caught bad-mouthing him. As a result, he winds up being the series' go-to for physical comedy, usually at the hands of Uramichi. Kumatani is much more of a straight-laced, serious guy, and rarely ever seen without Usahara in tow. He most often plays the foil for Usahara and spends much of the show calling the more irresponsible man on his bullshit. Ikiteru Daga is the male part of the singing duo on the children's show. He is a former musical actor and is billed as the good-looking one of the series. He's also completely naive, more than a bit ditzy, and has the sense of humor of a 12-year-old. He and I would get along great, if only for that. The other part of the singing duo is Utano Tadano. She's the female counterpart to Iketeru, and I was actually convinced that she was in a relationship with him when the show first started. Mostly because the show described her as being in a relationship, and it seemed like it was saying that her boyfriend was Iketeru. I was wrong, but I held that belief for several episodes and found it a little annoying. Anyway, Utano has a live-in boyfriend of several years, and is nearly as jaded and unhappy with her lot in life as Uramichi. However, a lot of her resentment actually comes from the fact that she's completely obsessed with the idea of getting married, and is, therefore, nearly constantly pissed off at her boyfriend for his lack of commitment. Her bridal obsession is actually a running gag throughout the show. The only other character that's really of note is the director, whose name I really can't remember. However, that's really unimportant, as the only thing he does is make the lives of the cast members of the children's show more difficult through his abject stupidity, such as making them film a summertime music video on the beach in freezing temperatures in the winter. Yeah, he is one of those people. The show itself was very much a sitcom. That's why there was no real detailed breakdown on this one. It was very episodic, with each episode being fairly self-contained, with no real overarching plot to break down. In this instance, that was kind of nice, as it let me come at each episode individually and enjoy them all on their own merits, rather than being worried about how everything was going to affect the overall story or trying to keep track of an overarching plot. That was definitely something that I liked about this one. It even managed to go a little bit meta in the last episode. The comedy itself was pretty subtle in its execution. There wasn't a lot of overblown slapstick or visual gags in this series, though there were a few, don't get me wrong. There were some wardrobe choices that were inflicted on Uramichi that had me positively dying. Most of the comedy, though, was done through dialogue and expression. It's that subtle style humor that I find most enjoyable. The only thing that I can think of that was a bit of a turn-off at times was the pacing. It was a bit slow at some points in the episodes. I mean, that should be expected, I suppose, when you're dealing with what essentially amounts to a slice-of-life anime. Though I can say with confidence that I was never bored with Uzaki-chan. That one was a slice of life too, and I never once felt my attention wandering, the way I did at certain points at this one. So, yeah, I think there was definitely a bit of a pacing issue with this. Maybe some more jokes or something could have been inserted around some of the slower points. I don't know. What I do know is that I always enjoyed the play-by-plays between Uramichi and Usahara. Overall, I have to give this one a solid green thumbs up. It's definitely a recommend. Despite its pacing or slower middle parts issues, it's not a bad anime. I also liked the art for this one. Otherwise, that's all I have for you this week, Goblins. Let me know what you thought in the handy section down below. While you're down there, don't become too jaded and lose your joy in life. Also, if you like what I'm doing, you can join the Viridian Horde by crushing those like and subscribe buttons. I appreciate all of you who watched and those of you who have subbed. Thank you very much. I'll see you all tomorrow for another pop culture beatdown. Possibly on F&T. I'll see you then. Lates.